Hi, I'm Melinda Van Fleet, and welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. I'm an author, speaker, and success coach who helps women believe in themselves, build confidence, and take action. In 2009, my husband Ryan and I were laid off at the same time, and we moved to the Florida Keys without jobs, not knowing anyone, hardly any money, and we never even been here. But we made it. And now, not every day is sunshine and rainbows, but we're living our best lives. All along in our journey, I've always said that someday when we get our shit together, we will help others. So each week, my intent is to be relatable and bring you tactical tips, tools, share my learnings and stories that can help inspire or transform you wherever you are in your career or general life and make an impact. I strongly believe that if I can do it, you can do it too. So what's stopping you? Real quick, before we begin, I am super excited about the release of my first book, Confidence Mastery for Couples, a roadmap to a more intimate relationship. And this book releases March 9th. Stay tuned for more about it and other confidence-related books that I will be releasing every 3 months. And I'm going to put a link to my website in the show notes. Now on to the podcast. Thanks in advance for listening. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast. Oh my goodness, I have the biggest treat. I am super excited, and I think my head's going to pop off my body because I feel like we have so many amazing things to talk about. And the guest I have today is Laura Di Franco, and she's the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where they publish world-changing wellness books. She will help you share your story, build your business, and change the world. She has 3 decades of experience in holistic physical therapy, a 3rd-degree black belt, wow, and 19 books. She has a clear preference for being badass and will not let you not shine your light. So, welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you. I love it. I don't want your head to pop off though.
So let me just tell the audience why my head is going to pop off. Because they're probably going, what in the heck is she talking about? And that is because for any of you that haven't been regular listeners and haven't heard me drop little nuggets here and there, Laura was my writing coach. And unless you've really been living under a rock, you know I am launching my first book March 9th. So I was in Laura's 3-month Brave book writing program, and she was instrumental in helping me move through the process, any fears I had, any lack of confidence. I have the chills just like thinking about it, sitting here actually. And so I'm just really excited to have her on the podcast because we're going to hear about her background as well as the program, segueing into some book projects that she has on her docket as well. So Laura, share a little bit about yourself so the audience gets to know you.
Well, thank you so much. I want to say first, thank you for being one of the authors who really took action, who took all the tips. I mean, it's one thing to, have someone share stuff with you, but it's another thing to actually put them into action and get it done. And so I just wanted to say congratulations on the upcoming books. And I'm going to put S for plural because I know there's going to be more than one. Honestly, you're a badass. And that's what makes what I do so much fun is watching people turn around and be brave and share that kind of writing, right? I guess I've been writing for a really long time. I was an avid journaler. And I started that when I was a teenager. So there's writing that goes back to my teenage years, kind of hormone-filled pages about boys, I'm sure, if I went and read it. But it wasn't until I became a physical therapist, I knew I wanted to educate people. So I started blogging, and that was the writing at that point, And I knew I would write a book. I knew it. I told everyone that one day I would write a book. I just didn't know what it was going to be. And so it was mostly about being a healer, physical therapist, eventually opening up my own practice and writing blogs. But when the first book came through, I realized I had written it in my journals. And I always want to say that to people who are thinking about it. If you're an avid journaler, most likely you have books, plural, written already in the pages of your journals. So it's, it pays to kind of go look in there and see what's good.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And it's funny, you just made me have a little flashback, how you said how you would tell people that you were going to write a book. That was one of the first steps you had us do in your course, was to tell people.
Yes. Well, that's about accountability, because if you start saying it out loud, then it's kind of like, oh yeah, I am doing that, aren't I? And it's awesome. And people don't want to share it because they're almost afraid of the success that they might have to have after that, but the more you share it out loud, I always say, share before you even start writing. It'll get you writing. Share during the process. People love to hear about that process too, right? Yeah, so I love that. And again, I think, you were one of the ones who took that on, like for real. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I did. And what I'll tell everyone is that once you start to share, whatever it is, whether it's writing a book or starting a business, it can be a multitude of things. It gets less scary as you do it. It's definitely a very, very good technique to push through fear and build your confidence. I mean, it just kind of naturally works. And then you kind of naturally go, oh, okay, that wasn't so scary. So let's do another post.
Exactly. And the day that I realized I wasn't going to feel clear or confident or courageous first, that I actually had to take the action with that nausea feeling of fear. I have to take the action before I would feel the things I wanted to feel, like the clarity and the confidence and the courage, right? So that's the thing, is like people are sitting around on their asses waiting to feel a certain way so they can take the action. It doesn't work that way. So you have to get better and better at moving with the feeling and understanding what I call purpose-driven fear.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, and that is so true. Something else you just said was about people being afraid of the success they may have. And what I find amazing is most people don't initially think of it that way. Like they're thinking of other things, but you just did an excellent job of reframing how we should be thinking about things, and then being like, oh, why are we afraid of success?
Yeah. I think it's because once you say you're going to do something, you're afraid you'll have to tell your friends and family that you failed, or whatever that is in your head that you're thinking about, right? You're making this mean so much extra in your head, and that is the problem. Yeah. So for me, along my journey, that mindset mastery, oh my God, that's been key. It's been key to everything with an exclamation point.
Mm-hmm. And that work doesn't stop, does it?
Oh, no. I mean, okay, that's the sad story, is like, once you hop on this journey, you're never going to get off. First of all, you can't go back. And it's the next layer. You know this. Mm-hmm. It's the next layer, and you're going to have to get to it, and you will, because the next achievement is going to create a whole nother level of that imposter syndrome that we love to talk about so much. And you're going to be sitting there going, wait a minute, haven't I already dealt with this before? And you have, except for now it's another layer of it, another level.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So tell me about a time where you had, let's say, a failure. So something that someone out there may be afraid of, like, oh my gosh, this could happen to me, and how it ended up working out for you.
Oh, so many.
We all do. That's the thing. No one shares these things.
The mistakes and failures, right? So first of all, I reframed those early on as stepping stones, so I don't care anymore. I know that, however that sounds, the I don't care part, but like, okay, mistake or a failure. Well, guess what? I learned something, and then I take that and I move forward with it, and I'm armed with something special at that point to help me with the next step, right? But I will never forget when I had one of my very first blogs go viral on the Elephant Journal. And I wasn't expecting the attention that the article got. It was amazing. It was something I had dreamed of. Thousands and thousands of reads and shares, like for the very first time. And I had been blogging a long time before that. And out of all of the beautiful comments that blog got, there was one guy who disagreed with me pretty wholeheartedly. And so, we're all so terrified of the critics or the trolls showing up. If the bigger we play, the thing is it's not if that's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And so when that happened to me, oh my gosh, I think I got stuck in my head for at least 6 or 7 days. And I always tell people now, no, if you're somebody with a big mission to help people, you cannot waste your precious time being stuck in your head about one negative comment, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, good for you that you ruffle a few feathers. That means you're standing fully in your truth and you're exactly where you're meant to be, right? So, of course, I can talk to you about this now because, I've come sort of full circle and I look at it now and I'm like, okay, Laura, if when that happens again, you're not spending 6 or 7 days in the pit, right? You're going to spend moments, like seconds. And then you're going to turn it around and you're going to write another blog for the people who are waiting for that message. So that's how I deal with it now.
No, that's amazing. And it is really something that I think that people struggle with, that fear that, God, there's going to be a hater out there. So thank you so much for sharing that. Because, and if anyone's been in this space or listening to any podcasts from any people that, have huge, ginormous followings, if you really listen and even listen to some older podcasts, they'll say the same thing, that, there's trolls out there and they may hate on you, and you got to just let it go and keep serving and showing up for the people that want to hear you. So,
and honestly, if everybody likes you and those people are not showing up, you're doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. So let's spin that. When they show up, you're doing something right. You're, like I said before, you're standing in your authentic truth and it matters and people can tell, and that's a vibe and they feel it, and it's okay to ruffle those feathers. That means you've arrived. I'll never forget a friend of mine saying to me, we were doing some of our first books back around 2012, maybe a little before that. And he got a 1-star review on his first book, Baby. And we were on the phone and he's like, you know what? As soon as you get your 1-star review, you've made it. And I'm like, okay, that's the mindset I want to be in, So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. We had something when Ryan first started podcasting, he wasn't very good. And he knows that, so I'm not saying anything bad about him. And he got, I think, a 2-star, but the person didn't leave any comments on Apple. They just did the stars. And once in a while, it pops into your feed, which I think is amazing about Amazon book reviews. If you pull up, at least in my algorithm that I see, I always see these negative reviews first, and then you'll see it's only 5 out of 700, right? So it's kind of crazy that Amazon does that, at least in my feed. But anyhow, this Apple 2-star review appeared in his feed 2 weeks ago, and he calls me, and he's been podcasting for 2.5 years. It's crazy. And his audience is big. And he goes, oh my God, someone left me a 2-star review. I'm like, shut it down, walk away. Let me look at it later when I have a minute. And so I pulled up, and sure enough, it was from way back when, and I'm like, okay,
yes.
We need to take a reality check here.
Totally.
The world is not ending. The sky is not falling. You're not stopping your podcast. It's all good. So
no, and we're so conditioned to focus on the one negative in the sea of positives. I really have practiced turning that around for myself because, your every moment is an opportunity to put your focus, to choose, right? So if you're aware, you get to choose what you put your focus on. And when we get stuck there, it's, I think, old conditioning. So I'm reconditioning my brain and my focus and my awareness to turn very quickly toward the 5-star and just repeat reading that one and just be like, okay, this is where I want my vibe to be today. Not for even just me, but for everyone else. Yeah. They don't want that 2-star like depression. They would like you to be in your element, right? So I take responsibility for that. And I think it's really important that we all do, especially if we're here to play bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you believe in energy, what you're saying is like right on. You have to keep that positive energy going. So paying attention, to your point, to the 5 stars versus the 2 stars then keeps radiating positive energy out to the world.
Exactly.
So, yeah, no, that's really cool. I have a corporate background, so I don't know if you've had the same experience, but I remember getting reviews every year, and the review would be really good, let's say, and then that one negative thing and it still sticks in my head.
Yes, of course.
So I think it stems across so many things. So even if you're someone out there listening that is, not a writer, not caring about social media likes or reviews or anything like that, you still probably can relate to some aspect of, oh yeah, I remember when I was a kid, you did really great in your dance recital, but you didn't smile enough or something like that, right?
Yep. The performance appraisals later when you were in the working world, all of it. There's layers and layers of that stuff.
Yep.
So it's no wonder that we were triggered in, certain moments in our adulthood. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Who is that responding right now? Is that my 5-year-old or what?
Yep, exactly. Why does this, why don't it just go away? So tell me about the book that is launching on March 3rd, and it's going to be a volume 4. So the ultimate guide to self-healing. I am personally on the ARC team and really excited. I get to read it ahead of time also because of doing this podcast, but I want to hear a little bit about it from you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, this story is like one of my favorite to share because as a physical therapist back almost a year ago now, March of 2020, my practice was shut down, and that had been sort of a bread and butter for me. I've been practicing for 30 years and practiced in my home, and I had opened up a second business about 5 years ago, and I was making a transition to books and speaking and all the cool things, right, that we're talking about today. But I could never really let it go. I was too afraid and was doing everything and doing 2 businesses for so long that COVID came along and was like, hey, Laura, you've been thinking about this for way too long. It's time. Okay. So shuts the PT business down in a day. And I had been panicking for about a week about what I was going to do. But I woke up on March 20th dreaming this idea of putting a collaboration book together with all of my healer, practitioner, expert people that I knew in my communities. And so I got out of bed, walked to the laptop in the kitchen, typed a little note in a Facebook group that I run for a class that I teach. And I said, ladies, who wants to write a chapter for this book? The world needs to understand how to heal at home right now. And you all are badasses, master teachers. Like, who wants to do this? So 48 hours later, 24 people said yes. And 5 weeks after that, we birthed volume 1 into the world. So if you guys understand about books, that's a small miracle.
That is crazy. I didn't know that. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Seriously, I love sharing this story, mostly because I was just like following orders from the universe. Seriously, okay, let's do this. And then everything falls into place. I did not know I'd be here almost a year later talking to you about volume 4.
Yeah. I did not know. It's happened last year. So that's crazy.
Yes,
oh my gosh.
It was crazy, good, amazing, aligned energy. And I've been following those orders, running around following orders ever since then. Seriously, I got an email 2 weeks after we launched the first one from a friend of mine, Lilia. Thank you if you're listening. She's like, when are you going to do the second one? And I'm like, now, I guess. Okay.
Here's my hit. Yeah.
Yes. And so here we are with volume 4. And, why so many of these? Are they all the same? No. And it's because there are as many ways to heal mind, body, soul, spirit, environment, all the ways you can think of, as there are people. And people need toolkits. They need lots of opportunities. So I love to ask, what else is possible? If nothing's worked for you yet and you're still not feeling good, what else is possible? And these books with 25 experts are giving you that many possibilities. So that's a short story, as much as I can do a short story on that one.
Yeah. And I loved when I read it, and this is like completely authentic. I did not feel when I was reading it that any of it was just repeated jargon. And, I'll just be really upfront on this too. Like sometimes I read articles on some of these really big, quote unquote, publications. And I'm like, okay, you just repeated stuff that, let's say Brian Tracy or Jim Rohn or whomever has been saying forever, and you just tweaked it up, right?
Yeah.
All of your stories, all 25 authors, it was just so authentic, real, and fresh that it was really good. It's one of those books that you're just not going to want to put down, and then you're going to want to keep like handy. So I just thought it was really awesome. And congratulations to all the authors involved. They did a great job, and they should all be very proud. So
amazing people, amazing experts, amazing healers. And seriously, like from the very start of my company, it was about kind of just like, it is about time that the healers of the world had a bigger voice. And so that fire has been burning under me. Like, let's do this. Let's help people, like with big collaborative energy, because as a solo practitioner, it was always like, I got to get this much business. I have to see these many people. But when you get 25 people together doing this together, the energy of it, we've been talking a lot about energy today. The energy of it is big and it's palpable. And you're right. The stories are powerful and authentic. These people are being brave. Some of them for the first time ever publishing their stories.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's been cool. Thanks for letting me talk about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. And one thing I want to say too, that just came to mind is, I know when I started in this space, I had this fear that, it's so crowded and there's no space for me. And I, a couple years ago, ended up talking to somebody who is very, aware of, various authors and even spiritual teachings and tools. And I mentioned Gabby Bernstein's name. And this friend of mine was like, who the heck's Gabby Bernstein? And I was like, okay, you don't know who Gabby Bernstein is? And
I know, isn't that awesome?
No. And I was chills again, thinking about this, like we are so guided. And it just made everything go, holy crap, this world is so big. And there are so many people whose lives we can touch. And it's time for these people, yes, for everyone to speak up. And so kudos for you putting together this series that will just keep living forever, probably, because there is so much need for people to be helped and to help, like both ways. And I think the more people that have the voice, that wish to share their voice, realize that and push through that fear and build that confidence to share their voice, they'll even realize it too. Like I've even had people say, who's Tony Robbins? Like,
don't you love it? I mean, so if you guys are worried that there's too much competition out there, I love having conversations where that comes up and they're like, I don't know who you're talking about. I'm like, yes, there's a chance for me yet.
Yes. And then they know you. So then you're like, well, wow, that's like really cool. Like you don't know who Tony Robbins is, but you kind of know who I am. That's like amazing.
Yeah.
So So all those little like nuggets, like help you push through your fear and build your confidence, like to just kind of, keep on going on your journey and your path. So,
and honestly, don't you also believe that, if we help even one person, like change a life, that is a ripple thing.
Yes.
I try to remind people, you don't need a billion people. You need one person whose life was changed. And I would assume a lot of you listening do that, you can think of that face when I
Mm-hmm.
say this. And that's I ended up writing a whole poem about this topic. Purpose has a face.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that face comes up in your mind, just smile with the biggest amount of gratitude. You're changing one life. That's a ripple.
Yeah.
And it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then that one person might just be nice to someone at the grocery store, right?
Yep.
And it goes on and on and on. It is truly an amazing, powerful tool that we all have within us. So it's really cool. I also want to talk about your book that's coming out in April.
Oh my gosh, this book has been sitting in my computer for like a year and a half. And so I was waiting for a very big deal thing to happen. Speaking of people that you may or may not know, Jack Canfield endorsed this book called How to Have Fun with Your Fear. And that was a very big win for me. And so if y'all say, I don't know who Jack Canfield is, and, I'm not going to be offended or anything, but
I do. That's awesome. Congrats.
And, once upon a time, I realized that out of all the things I was writing about, getting through fear was one of my favorite topics. And I sat one day and I'm like, you know what? You have a lot to say about this. Like, why don't we just do the whole book about how to have fun with that? And I'm talking about purpose-driven fear again here, because if we can discern it inside of us, we can have so much more fun with this, you guys. And we can literally move through it to those things that we deeply desire to say and do in the world. And it's awesome. I cannot wait to share this book.
Yeah, it's really, I just think, like, sitting here, I'm like, fear is something that every single person deals with regularly.
Yes.
So having the tools and having some stories, you're an amazing storyteller. Thank you, teacher. So
Thank you.
That you can go, oh my God, I totally get it. Like, I see myself in her and she pushed through it. I can do this too. So to have that guidance and that inspiration from a book like this will just be amazing for people.
Thank you. Exactly. When you tell your stories, your brave, authentic stories, you're giving other people permission to be fully in their lives, just to be whoever they are. And you're also giving them permission to tell their stories. Mm-hmm. And so that's the most powerful piece about the storytelling itself. And then, me, I'm a practical gal. I want people to have an experience with my books. I love the stories. They heal me and the reader. Mm-hmm. But when you go beyond that to share your master level skills, if that is we all have something to teach, whatever level we're at. And people can have an experience with your words and walk away thinking, whoa, okay, I'm different than a moment ago. Yeah. I just think that piece it'll continue to be my mission for these books. So How to Have Fun with Your Fear has practical exercises in it.
That's awesome. And yes, you can change quickly. Like, you can read something and shift quickly. Like, I've experienced this so many times in my life, especially as I've gotten older. So I highly recommend to everyone out there listening. Oh my gosh, I have so much to recommend. I have my book. I have The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing. I have Laura's upcoming book in April, How to Have Fun with Your Fear. And also Laura's writing course, which starts up again in May.
Yes, excited about that as well. Take a small group of brave healers through it. Nonfiction, signature book, mostly for your business, and similar to your book that you wrote. And I can't wait to start that class up again. It's been extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it was divine timing. So I want to share that really quick with the audience, because I believe that all things happen when they're supposed to. And I had been noodling on this concept of writing a book series on confidence, and I had been writing my journals, as you said.
Yeah.
So I had been doing that. I'd been blogging. I had been doing all the things. I had been part of a co-authored book series that launched last November. That was a small business book series. And if you follow me, you have heard that before. So I'd been doing all those things, and I know I was like, okay, it is time. And then because I was following Laura and was listening to her Monday calls once in a while, and was just kind of in her world, when she announced that she was putting together this 3-month Brave book writing program, and the timing was starting in November and launching by, in 3 months, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need. And why I personally ended up pulling the trigger, and this is, it varies for everybody. So I want everyone to like realize that and be able to sit with that and think about your reasons for why you want to push forward on something. But for me, I was like, okay, to have an extra bit of accountability is awesome. I don't know what I don't know going into this. How amazing to have an expert like Laura, who she's, like I said in the intro, is 19 books now. To ask questions to, like, that's like, invaluable, it's like priceless is the word I'm looking for, to have that. And then also like a team, like other authors to meet, other like-minded individuals to build relationships with. And the whole group has been amazing. So I'm just so blessed and grateful that it all worked out for me. So
thank you.
Like all of it just like came together. And I feel like the relationships within the group are really awesome and exciting. And I always join let me back up. When I join a group, I always have the intention of, if I meet like one person that ends up being a relationship, then that's a win. Well, out of your group, I feel like everyone's a win. So that's really cool too. So I encourage anyone that's in the space that Laura just described as her niche. If you're listening to this and you've been like, maybe I should do this, I don't know. No, freaking do it. Like take some action, push through that fear, and, contact Laura. All the information will be in the show notes, and, see how you can get started, because May is going to be here before you know it. It's crazy.
Well, thank you. I'll shout that community out again. Thank you for saying that, because it's one of the most important and the best things that's happened with all of the different things that I'm up to. And that is that community coming together. There, you included, are badass. You're showing up with awareness. You're showing up with compassion. You're showing up and taking action. And you're really caring about creating relationships with each other to do this thing we're doing in collaboration. And so, oh man, is one of the things I have to say I'm most proud of is to be gathering those kinds of people together for all of the magic that we're making together. So thank you for being a part of that. Yeah, no,
thank you for being our amazing guide, teacher, however you want to put it. And I'm just really, really honored and so happy that I have met you in this past crazy year of COVID. And I'm really just excited that you're part of this world now too with my podcast. So I'm hopeful that a lot of the audience members connect with you.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. So do you want to give any final closing thoughts? Anything you wish to say? I'll leave it open to you.
Well, okay. I love to close out with a big, juicy question. So here it is. What if there's something you haven't learned yet that could change everything? It's time to be brave.
Okay, I hope everyone wrote that down. And I'll put it in the show notes too, because that's like a journaler. That's like one of those that you sit and think about. So I love that.
Yes. Thank you for having me, Melinda.
Yeah, awesome. Do you want to just share how people should connect with you? I know there's many ways. So
easiest is just pop over to bravehealer.com and you can send me a note through the contact form there. I would love to hear from you guys. Love to set up a chat if you're interested in talking about anything you heard today. And of course, Facebook is kind of where I do most all of my engaging badassery. I've got a great free group, Brave Badass Healers. So come on over.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being a light and an inspiration to so many of us. You're the best.
Thank you.